So, you regret breaking up with your ex and you want to figure out how you can get them back. Well, luckily, I am filming this video to help you understand the exact steps that we have seen work for thousands of our clients who have been successful in reuniting with their exes. So you're going to learn the patterns that work and exactly how you should be implementing them and when you should be implementing them. Now, I've talked a lot about the strategy for getting an ex back quite a bit throughout my history on ex-boyfriend recovery, our flagship website. And actually on that website, I put together an article that is 24,000 words. So this is as in-depth as it comes to detailing the strategy that I'm going to be talking about today in this video. So if you get through the end of this video and you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, I want more, I need to understand more about this aspect or that aspect, my recommendation is to actually go to our website and read that massive guide on how to get your ex back. So ultimately, our strategy we've found over the past 10 years that we've been doing this kind of breaks down into three distinct parts. And those three parts are considered a no contact rule period, the value ladder, and the value chain. Now, if you don't know what the value ladder, the value chain is, or if you haven't heard of the no contact rule, don't worry, I'm going to be doing my very best to explain them to you in pretty good detail. So let's start first with the first step that you tend to have to do when you want to get your ex back, and that is the no contact rule. So the no contact rule refers to a period of time where you cut off all conceivable communication with an ex after a breakup. The intent of this tactic should not be used to make your ex miss you, but instead should be used to rebuild your own life so that you can outgrow your ex. By doing this, the no contact rule can have the added benefit of making an ex miss you. So in a nutshell, the no contact rule is this period of time where you're ignoring your ex. So that means if they reach out to you through Facebook, or if they reach out to you through Instagram DMs, or if they reach out to you just through text or WhatsApp, you need to ignore that. Now, typically speaking, there are three time frames that we recommend for a no contact rule: a 21-day rule, a 30-day rule, or a 45-day rule. I don't want to get into the big details of like specifically, hey, if you're in this situation, do a 21-day rule, or if you're in this situation, do a 45-day rule. You need to do your own research on our website to figure that out for yourself. So one of the coolest parts about this YouTube channel is it gives me the opportunity to interview lots of different success stories. People who have gone through our program successfully and gotten their exes back. And interviewing these success stories allows me to understand what's working and what's not working. It also allows me to pick up on certain patterns that I may not have picked up on when I originally created the strategies that I'm about to teach you today. And one of the biggest findings that we've found has to do with the intent of the no contact rule. Think of it like this. A lot of the times when people want to use a no contact rule on their ex to get them back, they come into that no contact rule with the intent of making an ex miss them. So they think to themselves, I'm going to ignore my ex, and as a result, they're going to miss me. We actually found that the people who tried a no contact rule with that frame of mind ended up failing. Why? Well, when you compare it to the other type of person, the person who ended up succeeding getting their exes back, it's all about the intent of the tactic. So what do I mean by that? Simply put, if you use a no contact rule to not focus on your ex, but focus on yourself, focus on outgrowing your ex, kind of even getting over them, that actually has a much more potent effect of making them miss you. So it's about the intent of this tactic. But that's not really the entire strategy. In fact, that's just the first step of our entire strategy. Next comes the value ladder. All right, so what is the value ladder? Basically, the value ladder is all about building value via the four methods of communication. So there are basically four types of communications that you will be having with your ex as you go through a process. There's text-based communication, which is any type of communication sent via text, iMessage, WhatsApp, or instant messaging apps. There's phone call-based communication, which is any type of conversation you have via a phone, video chat, or a Zoom session. There's in-person meetup-based communication. Here we move into that in-person communication phase. Meetups aren't considered dates necessarily. They aren't considered romantic, but they are meeting up in person. And then finally, we have that in-person romantic-based communication. This is another type of in-person communication, but it's a date where the romance is assumed. So if you look at these methods of communication, you have text messaging, phone calls, meetups, and then romantic dates. Those are four big steps The overall goal after a no contact rule that you should be having if you want to get your ex back is to build value before you move up the ladder. So I always like to tell people, view this concept of a value ladder like a physical ladder. You're not allowed to move on to the next rung of the ladder until you build sufficient value on the current rung you're at. So as an example, let's say you're at the bottom of the ladder. You've done a no contact rule and you decide, hey, it's time to start texting my ex. So you take that first step onto the ladder. The biggest mistake people tend to make is they're like, hey, this is cool. I'm gonna climb to the top of the ladder as soon as possible. That doesn't ever work as effectively as going slow and building value on whatever level you're at. So with text messaging, sometimes that takes a month of texting back and forth before you advance things up to talking on the phone. And then sometimes that takes another month of building value on the phone call phase before you suggest a meetup. And then sometimes you have to go through a couple of meetups before you suggest that romantic date. Now here's the beautiful part about this strategy. If you're able to successfully climb the ladder in the way I'm suggesting, it's almost a shoo-in that your ex is very interested in you. Because oftentimes if they're not willing to let you climb that ladder, you're not going to be getting them back. So how do you build value on each specific rung? Well, that's where the value chain comes into play. So where the value ladder is all about building value through the methods of communication, the value chain is all about building value through conversations. And there are 5 specific conversations that we're going to be talking about today. Basically, the value chain is building value via the 5 different conversations with your ex. The first conversation you tend to have is small talk. This is the type of conversation you can have with anyone. Non-controversial, but also lacks depth. Then we move up to telling stories. Usually you will only tell stories to colleagues, friends, or loved ones. You won't be telling stories to strangers. Usually there isn't a lot of depth to the stories, but there are cases where there can be if you're clever. Now, then there's sharing opinions. Usually you only share opinions in person with friends and family who you know quite well. There are some cases where you can share your opinions online, but I really don't count these because you are usually hiding behind a keyboard. Then there's virgin ground. This is where you and your partner discuss something that you've or they've never told anyone before. It's a sign that they trust you more than the average person. And then finally, there's sharing feelings. I love you. I miss you. These are great examples of feelings being shared. All right, so let's hit the pause button. We know that you've at this point done a no contact rule, and at this point you've also understood the concept of the value ladder. But how do you build value and climb up the ladder? Well, simply put, you're going to use those 5 types of conversations, but you're going to spread them out as you ascend the ladder. So the first thing you typically do when you talk to your ex in the text message phase is you're really harping on small talk or telling stories, and sometimes you even advance up to sharing opinions. It's really not until you've really advanced far into the texting phase or even far enough into the phone call phase that you begin to try to search for that virgin ground. And really the virgin ground to me is one of the most rare instances that you'll be having as you ascend during the value chain. I don't think I've ever encountered someone who has not gotten their ex back when they have advanced and achieved virgin ground. So let's kind of dissect virgin ground and why it's so rare. Simply put, when you are harboring something internally that you don't want to tell anyone, it's really hard to pry that out of you. You have to have a lot of trust in the person that you tell that to. So if you're able to get your ex to literally say the words, wow, I've never told anyone that before, it is an incredibly good sign that you are advancing up the value ladder and the value chain in an incredible clip. And it's a very good sign that they're on the cusp of sort of getting back together with you. But how? How do you build up enough trust to achieve virgin ground? Simply put, the best way is to just stick to the basics that we're talking here. Slowly ascend the value ladder and the value chain at the same time. Now, a couple of things. Virgin ground and sharing feelings should not be done through text message. At a bare minimum, they should be done in person or after you've been on the phone for them for months and you're in a long distance relationship. That is the ideal time to be fishing around for those things. And usually you need to let them take the lead, Now, perhaps the biggest flaw with these YouTube videos is the fact that it doesn't allow me to go into the granular detail that you absolutely need if you're going to succeed in making your ex want to come back to you. Now, like I said before, I've written a 24,000 word article basically talking about all of this, but on steroids. I mean, every single conceivable thing you can imagine is on that article, and I highly recommend that you check that out. Also, if you haven't, make sure you take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. That's a free, simple 2-minute quiz that's designed to help you understand what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. And all you have to do if you're watching this video on YouTube is simply look in the description link below and click the link you see there to take the quiz. Also, if you haven't liked, commented, or subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. Every little bit helps. I'll see you next time.